What's going on? Boys, thanks to our patrons and Fiverr customers, subscribe to our Patreon free for behind the scenes stuff. Arm yourselves, life stuff. This is not a comprehensive video on leadership. It's also not happy, rah leadership. We had our first little purge in the Discord server, and it reinforced some lessons. And we'll get to those, but let's start with how I view leadership. Now, I think the common way of viewing leadership is to look at it as a smaller scale thing. More like becoming an officer on a ship in the Navy, or even becoming a captain of a ship in the Navy. But when you look at leadership that way, your precepts and perspectives get all fucked up. Because in that model, you are looking at leadership as a higher rung on someone else's ladder. And when you do that, you're thinking with chain of command or assumed order in mind. This is the way people are expected to operate. This is the way you're expected to operate according to someone else's rules they're trying to apply to your situation. And you can look at leadership that way. In fact, in most situations, you'll need to look at leadership that way. But that's not the way I look at leadership. I take a more tribal point of view and a you-centric point of view. Because what you need to keep in mind is you are leading for your benefit. Your benefit first. And that's important for a few reasons. One, to lead in the way I'm talking about, you need to be able to operate without anybody else. You become a leader not by assuming a role in an assumed order structure, but rather by results, getting results. You need to think about it more like a small company, actually. At first, you're wearing every hat. And you need to do that first because you shouldn't expect any help at first. If anything, you should expect aggression at first. From other people, I mean. You shouldn't even be thinking about yourself as a leader right now. And the second reason is you alone need to understand what works and why, and what doesn't work and why. Because what you're doing is you are building a system of results getting in your image. You can go tribal mode once you get results consistently. And you'll begin to form a tribe because people want the results you're getting. Well, why don't they come up with their own systems and get their own results and not have to deal with you? It's because they suck. It's one of the reasons I keep telling you to do YouTube. You're in a much better position, you have much more leverage when you can turn yourself into a results generator. You aren't reliant on some cocksucker. Anyway, people start to show up because they want what you have, right? And people will start attaching themselves to you strictly to get what you have, whether or not they align with you or your system at all. That's one of the reasons I hate these. There are a few genres of people I despise. One of them is the pop culture, edgy conservative, desperate for attention but won't do anything guy. I've been dealing with that guy for 9 years now. It's been 9 years. I was dealing with this genre of dumb motherfucker when I had 200 subs. This sort of person never, ever changes. Now, in the past we referred to these people as dumb young dudes, but women fall into this category too. There are also dumb young girls whom you can stick their dude component with them on the other side. It's the pop culture, edgy, left-leaning people, but they exist to signal. On the left you hear virtue signaling. On the right it's edge signaling. But they're the exact same person. Long time ago, what was it, the slider? On one side you have the anime PFPs, On the other side, you have the Steven Universe PFPs, but they're the same person. They operate the exact same way. The words they use are different, but that's all. Their end goal is validation, but they don't know how to do anything for themselves, or they don't want to do anything for themselves. And that's why they hop these trends. They believe doing what other people are doing will give them the validation they want. I feel like I make this video with slight spins. This time around, it's the leadership spin, at least once a year. This never changes. Anyway, little bit of a tangent, but what they'll do is you're a creator, they will find you and assume you are a smaller or up and coming version of whatever dick they're already riding. So they will try to ride your dick, but they don't understand or care about what you're doing or what you are, because that's the other thing to remember. These people do not develop skills. Their only skill is to be loud and pop culture political trend conforming. So they will expect to get validation from you because they are riding your dick in the only way they know how to. And if you don't validate them for something you don't want to validate them for, they'll start to build resentment because they feel owed your validation and you aren't giving it to them. So they'll start getting testy. And if you tolerate it, or if you try to explain to them what's happening, get them to stop, if you do anything except validate them, they'll get testier and testier, and more frequently higher intensity until they do something stupid. So if you tolerate them or try to work with them, you lose. Now, what happens if you validate them? They take that as permission to do the exact same thing as in the non-validation route, except now they have your blessing. Any way you deal with them, you get your toes stepped on, you get your shit fucked up, and you get taken off track. Now, for the record, this isn't just a content creation thing, and this isn't just a stupid young dude thing either. This goes for everything, this sort of person, but or the way this sort of thing plays out, but we'll get to that. This is what parasites do. This is what non-producers do. And there are two ways to deal with them. Either you remove them completely, get rid of them completely, all at once, or you leave, depending on what your situation allows you to do. Now, of course, and unfortunately, in real life, in most bullshit democracy leadership systems, you can't do that, and that's why equality is the worst thing to have happened to humans, because nothing works. This is how factions develop, this is how infighting happens. There's room only for one will. So it's your will, or it's not your will. Or I suppose it could be someone else's will, but if that's going to be the case, then train yourself to be a follower. It's not a bad thing to be a good follower, but you need to understand there can be only one will if you want to get anything done. And I mean this. You'll probably need to learn it the hard way. You'll probably need to learn it through repetitions. I'm still now learning it through repetitions, but you'll know what the game is after the first few times you deal with this. It is always the same. I have never encountered an exception. The only thing that changes is your doing what needs to be done muscle, or filing down your hesitation. Now, in relation to this Discord server, which I am beginning to view as more of a resource, I hesitated and tolerated this time. And I know people don't see it. Y'all loved Elias. But I didn't do anything at first. And that was for two reasons. One, I wanted to see how other people would react to somebody I knew to be a problem, which is when you're in positions like these. I mean, not that long ago at work, I had a situation like this. Know immediately someone's going to be a problem. And you also know most people will not see it. Now, a few will, and those are the ones you want to focus on because those are the people you really want with you. And also because I wanted to practice tolerance again and see if the universe would maybe this time, I mean the last 100 times it's turned out exactly the same way. Maybe this time it'll be different. And I say that sarcastically, but at the same time you do need to do this shit sometimes. So, I mean, knowing, you don't just learn something or see something and then know it forever. You need to reapply for your knowership. And it played out about the way I expected. Getting comfortable being irritating and then getting testy. It feels like we've been talking about this pattern a lot lately, including with the nonprofit. Kindness or tolerance, they are not good things you give to somebody else. They are tickets for bullshit to happen. Don't do it in the first place. And then we got rid of another one after that, which is what you want to do. When you're getting rid of people, you want to do it all at once. And you want people to have the opportunity to out themselves. Now, we got rid of only one other, but of course, it's the one I suspected. The other one I suspected. You develop a nose for people who will cause problems. And I think what it boils down to is self-importance, but in the Indian fashion, unearned self-importance. People who assume their point of view matters, especially unasked for. That's something to watch out for, by the way, when you are feeling people out. Watch who will try to give you their opinion, and especially advice, without your asking for it. Small problems verging on nothing can snowball into big problems faster than you'd think, and in ways you wouldn't expect. You deal with them immediately. And fortunately, your gut will tell you what you need to do before you even think about it, before you make any decisions. You already know what's going to happen and what you need to do. Your goal is to get better at trusting that instinct. And you should never be that concerned with binning people. And that's for a few reasons. One, everyone is replaceable. Or if you've organized your life correctly, everyone should be replaceable. The only person necessary to operate your boat is you. Everyone else, even the most important people, are auxiliaries. That's why this sociopath woman had me so fucked up. I realized after the spell had been broken, I was more attached to her mentally than I was with the woman I wanted to be my wife. And we'll need to make a video about that because I'm beginning to wonder if intelligence agencies don't use sociopath INFJs to control people, because that was a proper spell. And one of the INFJs with ASPD in that ASPD investigation did or had a history of doing exactly what this INFJ sociopath did to me, except that INFJ was doing it totally intentionally. It's sick shit. It might be a weapon unique to them. Gotta figure out a way to defend against that, because when you view anyone except yourself as essential, you are fucked. You are done. End of the Sicilian. What does Vito tell Michael? The most important rule above all else? survive. Throw anything and anyone you need to away so you can survive and build again. And I love that. I love that that's the end of the Sicilian. Because people have this idea of Vito as this perfect family man, and he's not. Anyway, the second reason is you can, or this attaches to the replaceable thing. You can always get more people, but you also have only a certain amount of bandwidth. And I think you can upgrade that as a person as you get better, but you don't want your energy going to anybody except the people who are down with your system. They're the ones you want to reserve your bandwidth for, your energy for, and in some cases your resources for, because even if they are very few, these are the people who will help you take your system that you've proven to work and multiply its impact. And when I was younger, and still now sometimes, you worry about equality and equity, but you shouldn't. Because what you're doing is you are building a multicellular organism, or a colonial life form, maybe. All that's required for it to exist is you, your will, but it can evolve into something so much greater with others involved as long as they are under or alongside your will. It's nature. And I wouldn't stress it too much. Because with these people, your victories are their victories. Because the victories benefit the entire life form. Except you are the linchpin, which is good for you. And that might not seem fair, but life is unfair. And if you want more leverage, then put yourself in a position to have more leverage. Or become a damn good follower. The problem is, I wouldn't have pursued leadership if there were any leaders I could have trusted. I wanted to be a follower. I am what I am now because I didn't have any other options. If you feel you don't have any other options, you be a leader. You can do it. And how do you know when you found people like this? Because they are very few. They will do what you need them to do without asking. Because you are all part of this single or multicellular mimetic life form. And when you have people like this, you're under an obligation to treat them well, but it'll never feel like an obligation. The same way I assume their end doesn't feel like an obligation either. All this boils down to boats. First, you need to build a boat that is seaworthy. Then, people will start showing up. That's another thing. You usually don't need to go seek people out. If people can see that you have something that works, they will come to you. Then you need to identify the parasites, the mutineers, the saboteurs, kill them immediately, or pull some RimWorld shit, that leader ability. Wait until you have a reason, so there's no... Well, there'll always be colony morale damage when you get rid of somebody. But that's a good thing. You need that, because that, I think, is where you figure out who you want to deal with and who you don't among the rest. The ones you want to deal with were on the same page before you even indicated anything was wrong. Now, the other people, the remaining people, might not be malicious. They might not even be problems, per se. They might never cause problems. But you need to know who's who, because when things need to happen, people who are not down with you are dead weight. They might not be malicious, but they will get in the way. Or they will cause problems incidentally. And we're talking about life in general here. On a Discord server for a YouTube channel, those middle ground people are not as big of a deal. But you need to know who's who. And remember, there can be only one will. Like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you haven't.